Hey, what's going on, guys? We've already got Lightning Fan out there already. Um, Per usual, it's a rainy weekend day. Usually it's Sundays, but we'll be busy tomorrow. There's actually a comic book convention I'm going to with some of my friends. And what we did, we got a G-Mart haul today, right? It took me since about October to accumulate roughly $85 worth of comics. And once I do that, when I buy these new, they're 35% off. They hold them. They accumulate to $85 and they ship them for free. This ended up accumulating to about over $100 since I think September of 2008, and now we're into April of 2019. So that kind of tells you that I'm not buying a whole lot of new stuff, but it's some good stuff. I think so far. So there's a stack of books here I'm going to be stuck with because pre-ordering is risky sometimes. You have to have faith that something's going to be good. You don't really get to sample it. You know what I mean? If you're going to get a series, you're going to have to get a series. Oh, feedback's coming in already. People are up and down. So anyway, I'm going to show off the comic book haul I have here. But before, hey, what's up? John Jones is out there watching this while bagging and boarding comics. Exactly. That's the good stuff, man. So hopefully I can help you out with that, keeping you entertained. Do you ever want to go to back to boxes? I'm considering the shelf idea. I have boxes all the way around. I'm going to be real careful here. And the place is a mess right now. But yeah, I have boxes all the way around and a whole closet full over there. But I do shelves and I'm switching everything to short boxes. That's the way to go on this stuff. Um, but yeah, I've always kind of kept a shelf of stuff that I can get. Basically, some of this stuff in here's the stuff that I'm reading, or I have books that I go back to that I'm always rereading, if you will. And these are things that I'm completing, sets and runs I'm completing. But I think it's a good to have a mix. I think you could. I think every collector should have a shelf of the stuff that they actually go back to read, or they like pulling out, so you don't have to dig. Um, just convenience. I don't really put too much thought into it, but I really do wish I'd had always went to short boxes. Now, that just came with experience. All right, so before we get to the new stuff, there was an event on Facebook that popped up. Some of my friends put it down saying that there was a yeah, man. Knights of Old. Yeah, no problem. I hope that helps. So anyway, but there was an event, and it was like a new flea market popping up around here, right? And it was from 8 to 12, and they're going to have a hot dog sale, and they had collectibles and comics and things for the family, and then they had it listed. So I put it in my events, and I started seeing some of my friends that I know of who collect this stuff, and they automatically that were interested in going. So I was sitting here thinking the competition has started. I figured there'd be comic books and things down there, and all of us vultures would be coming around. So I get up and decide I'm not going, then I am going. And then I drive on out there. It's about 30 minutes down the road, and it's a fucking yard sale. It's not a flea market, it's a yard sale. So since I was there, I ended up pulling, I talked the guy down. He had some graphic novels probably stacked up about this. I left a Brightest Day trade. I left a Blackest Night trade because I have all that stuff. But I ended up getting these just so it wasn't a wasted trip. And like I said, I'll get to the new comics in a minute, guys. Let's let some people catch up here. Um, and I ended up getting the first 7 trades of 100 bullets for $10. He tried to get me to buy all his graphic novels for 15, but I don't have the space and I'm not really interested. $5 is $5. So I ended up getting these. I'm gonna have to clean them up a little bit. There's some weird stuff on them. They're kind of dirty. But the guy was sitting there cooking hot dogs. Turns out he runs some kind of local wrestling promotion. And I've had people for years through this channel and on Twitter and everybody, a lot of people over the years sit there and tell me, you got to read 100 bullets. And one person actually kind of talked me out of it with their attitude. They were actually getting very angry because they just said over and over and over, read 100 bullets in one thread. Something I was doing freaked me out. So I'll be checking these out. There's the first volume, second volume. Brian Azzarello, uh, get this. This has a lot of fans on it, so it should be interesting to check out. If anybody read this, let me know. So yeah, that's the first 6. Excuse me. I thought of all the 7th one that I was going to buy. I got 6 volumes for $10 because the 7th one was just way out they're filthy, dirty, just man. Undisputed Frost. What's going on? It's kind of early for you where you're at. The Frost is out there. Everybody go check out Frost videos and his channel and stuff. That's a West Coast brother, if there ever was one out there. Good to see you. So yeah, 100 bullets. Pick those up. Okay, so we're 5 minutes in. Let's go ahead and get to the new stuff. I want to complain about some of this stuff. I want to praise some of this stuff. I'll talk about it through there. And it's pretty DC heavy. There is some Marvel stuff. And we're going to end with which of the DC comics, Detective Comics number 1000 did I buy? Which one did I get? I ended up getting two. 7 a.m. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. Okay, nice. Okay, so I'm always harking that there's not a lot of good stuff out there. I try to praise comics, talk about this stuff, but sometimes you just got to call it for what it is. You can't go on with the rose-colored blinders on if you're going to get on here, And there's just not a lot of quality books out there across the board, in my opinion. Okay, and I can go on, but every now and then something pops up. I read a few of these online. And Grant Morrison, if you don't know, Grant Morrison had been like sort of editor-in-chief of heavy metal for the last few years. And I would flip through a heavy metal when you could, hear Books a Million every now and then. And there was some stuff. You could tell Grant Morrison was on there. Things got a little Kirby heavy for an issue or two. He was playing around with genres and religion and stuff. And I totally got what he was doing because I read heavy metal when I was a kid, it was laying around the house, a bunch of stuff, a bunch of European influenced comic books. Was not cliche. It was very mature, very adult. They played around with things and everything. And Grant Morrison comes on and he ends up following with Green Lantern. So we can get the glare off that. Now I got the variant covers. I think they're up to issue 5 or 6 right now out there. So like I said, I've been letting these accumulate for a while. So I read the first issue online and it totally blew me away. It's like he's going for a Hill Street Blues feel again. It seems like anybody that comes on the Green Lantern, starting with Jeff Johns, really tried just to go back to that they're space cops. You know what I mean? Hope that's showing up. But these are the variant covers. But he got in here and Grant Morrison pulled out a few Green Lanterns that are part of the core that's working with Hal Jordan and stuff that are just heavy metal influence the way I read them. So I'm really looking forward to reading to see what he does here. I mean, we had a Green Lantern whose entire head is a living volcano and he's constantly exploding. And he has like a little mushroom cloud above him a lot. And he's talking. And I love that stuff. I mean, that's when you're really doing things in comic books where the only place they would work is in comic books. So I think Grant Morrison has infused this, like I said, with that heavy metal feel just from that first issue. Anybody's reading this, let me know if it continues. I had to buy number 4 off the stands because for some reason I didn't order it. I thought I had a subscription to it. But I get these variant covers when I can because they're the same price when I order online. Message deleted from Mr. Bulldogs. Don't be scared. It's okay. I got a nice Jay Lee cover here. I like the Jay Lee style that he's developed over the years. He started out drawing like Simon Bisley, for Namor. And over the years, I've watched him sort of change. I met him a couple years ago at HeroesCon and caught him, but he's got like this very eccentric 30s feel to it. So he's influenced by a little bit of Norman Rockwell. It has like this 30s serial Buster Crabbe look to it, if you know anything about it. But he's very stylized. I like what he's done there. Who's this one by? Doesn't really have a name on it. I recognize it's a St. Pierce, I think is the guy's name. I recognize the style. It's an artist I'm really not familiar with, but I like how it looks like a trading card. It has a bit of a Brian Still Freeze feel to it and stuff. That's not who did it. But like I said, these just feel fun. So I got number 4. This is up to number 5. So there's probably around number 6 getting ready to come out. I've seen people on Twitter and social media who still read their comics when they collect them, and they seem to be really enjoying this series. This will be the first thing that I'm going to sit down and read all the way through, when I get a chance. Some of us still don't die with bullets. Some of us can still bend steel. This is not a fantasy. Nice. That is cool. Why does that sound a little familiar? Where is that from, Mr. Bulldogs? Because that is awesome. Man, that's something I would chisel on my tombstone. Okay, so now, after praising the Green Lantern books, I'm going to completely tear up this next set of books because in my last G-Mart haul, I was able to get a few of them in when this line of comics started. I was pumped for it. I had mediocre expectations because Neil Gaiman is not writing them, but he's overseeing them. So I knew I wasn't going to be, I knew I wasn't going to be getting the original Sandman Gaiman. And with Black Label and Vertigo being virtual dumpster fire disasters, and Dan Didio of DC Comics putting out to people, let's keep this in home. Let's not air our dirty laundry out there because they don't want videos made. Don't think that YouTube and all these other channels and stuff haven't had an effect or been noticed and everything like that. They've hired a new editor who's been with DC since 2005 to come in and to take over the Vertigo lines in Black Label. I mean, they've just been a dumpster fire. We've had, you know, we have people who've come out to be sexual predators who have been putting out racist books like Border Town and stuff like that. They showed Batman's penis. Everybody lost their mind, which I think is just hilarious. More how people acted in that Batman Damned book. Number one became a collectible because it has Batman's dick in it. That's totally hilarious to me. I'm like, I didn't realize this was a thing. And then these Sandman Universe books came out, and they were unreadable. House of Whispers being the worst one that I read, but I had pre-ordered them on faith, and I want to be stuck with these. So what's going to happen is I'm going to take my Terrifics, and I'm going to take these Sandman Universe books, and I'm going to go to a comic book convention tomorrow, and I'm going to see if I can trade them out. You know what I mean? If I don't trade them out, I'm just going to stick them on eBay. And if anybody wants to try out some new books for cheap, you're going to have. I'll make a video showing what my eBay thing is, right? Because House of Whispers was just freaking horrible. I was like, what is this crap? I couldn't make it through. The Dreaming has this character in it who is just unsympathetic. You can't like her. You can't connect with her. I don't even remember her damn name, but you instantly hate her. And you get the idea that there's not going to be any characterization to bring you around. Part of writing characters is that there's got to be something you connect with them, some kind of sympathy with them, maybe a little bit of tragedy, or they're just freaking cool. This character, if you can even see it, I know there's glare and stuff, man. Whatever her freaking name is, I can't remember, but she's freaking terrible. She's in the Dreaming and just acts like there's something to rage against. It's just they're instilling those politics again in a book that there's no place for it. It's the Dreaming. It's we all visit there when we sleep. You can live there and be there, but you're still created by somebody, if not the Dream King. It's just freaking awful, man. I don't know what they're trying to say or what they're trying to do. Now, the books of magic. I almost got online to read them, but I had Timothy Hunter has a very soft spot in my heart. I've read about, I was 17 when I read this character, and it's one of the reasons I didn't jump on the Harry Potter train, is because when I got an idea of what Harry Potter was, I'm like, that's Tim Hunter. And then I've had it pointed out by, I don't want to give his real name because I can't remember his channel name. He changed it twice, but he's still on Facebook with me. But he told me about a 2000 AD comic book from the mid 80s, around 87, 88 or something, that had a character that was much like Timothy Hunter in Harry Potter, and go on and on and on. In these shelves behind me, I got a pretty good run of the original books of magic. I got the original miniseries that came out, which I think everybody needs to get the miniseries that came out in 1990. I think it's one of the greatest comic stories ever made. About Timothy Hunter having a choice with magic or not. He was prophesied to be one of the greatest magicians. They just didn't know if he was going to be good or evil. So we'll check this out because it's a bit of a reboot on the character. Like I said, House of Whispers, man. Oh my God, I don't even ever want to see it again. So, we get an old character here. This is the Judge, and he's one of those forgotten horror hosts from the 70s in one of the books. I've actually got to do some digging to remember where he's from. When I heard the name that he was popping up in the Dreaming, and I'm hoping I remember this right. We're going back to September, October, where I was picking up on some of this stuff. But he was one of those characters that popped up in the 70s books where they were doing them in EC style. They were kind of getting away from the comics code or finding ways to get around it. And the comics code was lightening up. And he was a host right out there with Cain and Abel and Eve and Baron Werewolf, that sort of thing. Crypt Keeper. Glass. Yes. Love Glass. Love Split, love Unbreakable. Mr. Dulipside just answered the question of some of us don't die with bullets, some of us can bend still. That is not a fantasy. Fantastic. I might do, I don't know, man. I might do just a video on that trilogy because I absolutely loved Glass. I get why it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it was fantastic. Nice. Split. We around this house, we sit there and we talk about things having paprika and we shoot the look. If you've seen Split, you know where that's from. And then we always dance because Kanye's our man. But anyway, the books of magic. Yeah, we'll check those out. Like I said, Lucifer. Now, I'm one of those people that I'm not like a religious fanatic. I'm not this. I'm not that. I don't go out and tell people what they should and shouldn't get. But there's just something about taking the devil and making him the sympathetic character and the protagonist instead of the antagonist in a story. I've had a trade of Lucifer, where I just got rid of it. I have no problem when he's the bad guy in the book and things like that. But when he's running his own book and stuff like that, I feel kind of weird. And I think I got this just for a number one. Now, good or bad, I'm probably gonna get rid of it. It's a hang up I got, and I totally own it, and I'm fine with it. I just want to put out that I'm not like a nut. You know what I mean? Like, oh no. So yeah, I'll be getting rid of these books. I'll probably flip through the Dreaming to see if it gets a little bit better with the other characters, but those first issues were freaking horrible. I don't see how you have Neil Gaiman, who did world building, came in with this great comic that really. Oh, it's probably the greatest comics of all time with his run of the original Sandman that he did. He tied it was just fantastic. And then you put out this crap, based on all of that. You know what I mean? You don't take you don't take a nice New York strip or a filet mignon or whatever your high priced favorite food is and just lay it on the ground and shit on it. But that's what they did, in my opinion, and I'll stick by that. All right, guys, throw out some questions if you want. We got some people sticking around. Taking just a second here to tell you, we're doing this on a Saturday instead of a Sunday because I'll be going to a comic book convention tomorrow. Some of the things I want to be looking at are going to be filling in gaps, and I don't really expect to have a huge haul unless I run into like a really good honeypot. I always say that. Then I end up finding some good stuff. But if there's any books or anything you guys think I need to check out, back issues, new issues, or anything like that, put them in there and I'll look for them tomorrow. I might talk about them. Now we're going to take a break from the DC stuff for a minute and look at some of the indie books that I got. I consider indie and stuff, right? Now, I don't push this character on people, all right? I do push certain runs. I think it's one of the things that if you know comic books, you might want to be a little knowledgeable on the 300 issue run because that is historic. That was very important for independent comic books. It led to the black and white explosion of the 80s of the indies. It led to the creation of things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and things, made a lot of things possible. It's a very important character, very important book. But as time went by, the creator overshadowed the work, and then the work kind of suffered. Yet I'm 225 issues into reading the entire 300 issue run, taking issue there, and I'm waiting for it to get boring now. I've come on here and told you to quit at 150 issues. Then I get it past 150 issues. I'm like, quit at 200. You need to quit there. And now I'm into it. And when you read it as a whole, it's a much better read. What you need to look for is the Titans book you keep wanting, Extra Cash as You Quit Smoking. He's talking about New Teen Titans #2, and he's absolutely right. I have seen an impact, a very good impact on my bank account somehow, just from quitting smoking 2 months ago. Even though I have bought extra books, I have splurged here and there a little bit and stuff. You're absolutely right. Maybe it's time to buckle down and get one or two of those big grails that I thought were out of time. So thanks, John, man. See, this is what I like about these live shows and having some of the same people on here and stuff, man. We have a little history here that we can discuss, man. But New Teen Titans #2, first appearance of Deathstroke. You might want to get that. I would love to get DC Comics #26, the first appearance of them, of George Perez and Marv Wolfman's Teen Titans and stuff. But yeah, might be time. Yeah, thanks, man. Okay, but the 300 issue run of Cerebus came and went and made history. Had some controversy there, had some quality issues with the book there towards the end and stuff. But he is back. and he's putting out these one shots and stuff, still taking kind of punches and satire of current comics and things that are going like that. And we have Crisis of the Infinite Cerebi. Who deflated the giant Cerebus balloon? We can't have a parade without it. This is of course harkening back to Crisis on Infinite Earth, and it's not showing up, but Dave Sim has like a mysterious wrist ailment that they can't figure out what's wrong, and he can't draw consistently. So what he does is that he takes out cutouts of Cerebus from his past work, and he mixes them with Dante Inferno type of pictures and things like Cerebus and Hell and stuff, and he makes these little cartoon strips that are pretty cool. Hey, Charlton 66 is on here. Brother, I was actually thinking about you this morning. We need to have a phone call sometime in the next month or something, just to throw that out there. Got some personal news I'd like to share with you. In real life, Charlton 66 and I consider us very good friends. It's really odd because we've talked on the phone and met each other a few times. And I was sitting there thinking, I think it goes back to like 2012. So yeah, man. And go check out Charlton 66 channel. Look at him in the live chat here. Just get books with characters who smoke the test of the old willpower. You got yes, Eric Bean. You got it. Appreciate it, man. All right. Charlton 66, Eric Bean. We got, and just Frost, a lot of people popping up in here, right? So I enjoy Cerebus, and I'm not saying that Dave Sim, everything he touches is gold, but there's a purity of comics with anything he does just because he's been doing this since the 70s. You know what I mean? I kind of compare it to music. You know what I mean? It's like with music, things in the 70s sort of went, you had the rise of punk and metal and things going on. So you have one line that you could have followed music on, or you went with the top 40 radio hits. And to me, Dave Sim and people of that kind of underground comics, indie era and stuff like that are sort of their own little history that you can follow. That's where you get your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Grimjack and a lot of these indie books and stuff. Not that I'm saying that he's the father of all that. I don't want to pump him up, but there is a line of comics that if you had stayed away from mainstream and followed that, there's some cool stuff out there. Now, supposedly, yet again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Alan Moore's retired from comics 2, 3, 4 times. Who knows? Eric Bean, I could never get into Cerebus, and I like the Flaming Carrot. Yeah, the Flaming Carrot's interesting stuff. Cerebus is something that if I actually sit down and talk to you, I could find a little storyline in there or something for you to read. But Cerebus, the life of a character, had its ups and downs and flows and different tones with the book and stuff. So yeah, there's always an issue or two, or maybe even like a short strip that I could point you at, but it wouldn't make you like the whole 300 issues and stuff, man. And I don't know what all you dabbled in. You obviously have read some Cerebus and didn't get into it, which is one of the things, like I said, Grant Morrison, Cerebus, certain things I just don't push on people. All right. But anyway, like I was saying, it seems like Alan Moore to me has like retired 3 or 4 times. Or maybe he had some comics already written and they're just, finishing them up and stuff. They were already done. He's not really that involved. I don't know. But supposedly this is the series where Kevin O'Neill, which we go blank. Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill are both doing this as their swan song, and this is their real retirement. So we'll see what happens and stuff, right? But this is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I cannot remember who's printing it. I'm not going to take these out of the bag. But anyway, this is League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Blazing Worlds. 20 years. I think they started in 99. Going by memory here and stuff, right? Freaking glare. But anyway, so we're finishing out the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Very different from the first 2 that came out through Wildstorm and DC, ABC Comics. I might go into it and stuff. But yeah, they're going out with style on this. Blazing Worlds, I think, and from the look of some of the covers and stuff, if you're a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen fan and you have the black dossier, right, it looks like they're harkening back to some of that. Okay, so I read the first one, and I think this is 5 or 6 issues that's coming out. I'm up to number 5 or something. It may be done. I don't know. I'll have to look it up and stuff. But anything Alan Moore and stuff to me is better than anything coming out there. Even Alan Moore's worst stuff is better than somebody's best stuff sometimes. If superheroes and supervillains with superpowers were real, then life wouldn't be so boring. Well, I kind of mentioned this in another stream and stuff. If you really looked at it when it comes to superheroes and stuff, I mean, when I would read these concepts as a kid in the comic books where the public were suspicious of superheroes and stuff, I was like, you got to be kidding me. How could you do that? Realizing that as comic book readers, we see inside their head and their life and stuff. We're voyeurs in their life. But if somebody popped up and came up with a concept of right and wrong, and we're out here fighting and telling me things that I'm supposed to believe them, or they're telling me they're out in space with a lot of people saving the multiverse and the universe and stuff like that, I'd have to question it. You know what I mean? Life is what you make it, man. I don't know about it being boring and stuff, but I know it's definitely got its downtime. You know, those are cool. I never knew that those had come out. Yeah, yeah, the Blazing Worlds and stuff, the Alan Moore League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Yeah, and it just recently finished up. I mean, they took their time getting the issues out, but like I said, this is the one where it's supposed to be Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill really retiring. Kevin O'Neill is on two of my favorite series, Martial Law and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. So we'll see what goes on now. Couple weeks ago, it came up that people were telling me that Goon #1 is back. The 20th anniversary of Goon through Albatross Press. Eric Powell's back on the character. Hey, Eric Bean, you have a good day too, man. He's heading to work. Good luck, man. Glad you could pop in. Charleston 66. I enjoyed the world of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. You never know who would pop up. Yeah. And Charleston 66, I think we talked about it before, or maybe you already knew and stuff. I've talked to a few people over the years about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but there's annotations in those where people have websites where they get in there that really deconstruct all the influences and all the characters that Alan Moore puts in there to where you realize that there's more than even one person can know. I was really surprised by some of the stuff that I just sort of read and thought I was picking out things and pointing out things and I read that book and stuff. And then they turn around and you see these annotations and you're like, I know nothing. I'm like, I know nothing. And I give the movie a second chance. Charleston 66 says he liked the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie that came out. That movie was written by James Robinson of Starman fame. He dabbled in Hollywood for a while when he got out of comics for a little bit. And but he really got the short end of the stick because what happened is that there was a movie that had come out that was based on an Alan Moore script, I think, one of his comics. I can't really remember. And somebody, Alan Moore was still sort of willing to talk, and he was sort of like, "Hey, man, what do you got going on now?" He was like, "Oh, we're starting this League of Extraordinary Gentlemen," and he gave them the premise. The comic book hadn't even come out yet, and they call up James Robinson and said, "Here's the premise of a Alan Moore book. Make a movie out of it." So that's why there's big differences and stuff in the movie and stuff, right? I thought the movie was just fine. I think it had flaws that had nothing to do with the writing or the actors, a little bit of the director and probably the film stock. There's little things that kind of took you out of the movie and stuff, right? But the best thing they got out of that movie, in my opinion, was they nailed Mr. Hyde. I was ready for just a Mr. Jekyll and Hyde movie done in that area. Awesome, man. But anyway, so Goon comes out. People know I'm a huge Goon fan. To me, Goon was one of the best books. I've met Eric Powell. I got a bunch of stuff signed about him. I've actually got to talk to him a little bit at conventions. At the conventions, I don't, most best that you can. I pushed the book. People, I've yet to have anybody say they hated the Goon when they started it, and however they missed this things. It kind of led them to other books. Yeah, yeah. Charlotte 66. That movie was awesome, man. So all of a sudden, the Goon #1 comes out, and there's a few people shocked that I'm not getting it, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to get it. And I know how that sounds. Maybe I'll back up and get them one day and stuff. But it's because of what happened with Hillbilly. This is a mini series through Albatross Press. The first Hillbilly was 12 issues, and this is a mini series called the Eyed Witchery from Beyond. It's a 4-part series. Okay. But the thing about it is when Eric Powell was doing the original Hillbilly book, it took forever to get those 12 books out. When it came to actual quality of sitting down and reading a comic for a comic's sake that was influenced by everything from King Arthur to a little touch of maybe Hillbilly Deliverance to EC Comics and things like that, and each issue was a solid story on its own and really cool. I mean, he took the genre of knights floating around medieval England and put them in the Appalachian Mountains fighting witches and evil and things like that. The Devil's Cleaver, very rich and stuff. But he killed the momentum of the book by how long it took them to get that book out. Um, Now, back in the 80s and stuff, I've heard the stories of how, like, the last issue of Camelot 3000 took Brian Boland over a year to get out. The last, Dark Knight Returns had delays, which, Watchmen, that last issue took forever to get out or something like that, had delays and stuff. Well, that's one thing, to have the quality of those books coming out where when you're actually doing them, you've got something special. And to me, they paid off on the wait. It still sucked, and it doesn't mean it was unprofessional. But when you have a book like Hillbilly, and you're starting your own indie company, and I'm seeing you on Twitter and Facebook, not telling him his business, not telling him how he should be working. Don't get me wrong. But when I see him floating around from con to con and some of the things I'm doing, and I'm like, can you not get your book out? You just don't want to get burned again. It kind of kills the momentum. So yeah, check out the Goon, check out Hillbilly, check it all out. I have no agenda telling people. There's no agenda here of like don't get these books and stuff. Totally get them, but it's just a choice where I'm getting older and I've got other interests going on, and I'm just not interested in books that are super late. Speaking of books that are super late, that they're lucky that I'm just at this point. I know I want to be sticking around to see how it ends. Um, but I'm not really hyping it or pushing it up on anybody. And can you guess what it is? Doomsday Clock. Doomsday Clock started coming out what, October, November of 2017. Here we are into the fourth month of 2019, and number 10 has been pushed back 5 weeks now. Okay. I'm not even really caring if you can see the covers and this stuff. It's had its good things. To me, a Doomsday Clock is very uneven. Maybe when I sit down and read the whole thing back to front, it's had some very cool concepts where we have the movie that has Rita Farr in it that they're talking about. Um, there's things in here where they're pulling from very obscure 80s series that didn't go, and they're transforming them into like movies and movie characters, and they named off a bunch of actors that were in it. And so when it comes to what Jeff Johns is doing with the trivia there, but the whole concept of this is that 52 wasn't so much a mistake. Even DC has admitted my DC 52 era of comics was a mistake, but they worked it into where it was Dr. Manhattan had stolen something like a decade of these heroes' lives and stuff, right? And now they're becoming aware of it, and we've had the Watchmen characters come into the real world, which 10 15 years ago, I say there would have been riots and stuff, but the bloom is off the rose. You can pretend that this never happened. And I'm one of the biggest Watchmen fans that you will ever meet. Um, but there's been a lot of delays. There was a 2-year plan to where all the books of the DC universe of their rebirth was going to lead to a great big huge dovetail payoff. And it's going to be with Doomsday Clock kind of starting out and catching up with the DC universe where it was at. And it's as boring as I'm sitting here talking about it. I hear it. You know what I mean? So this book has been riddled by delays. It's had some very cool moments, some great, fantastic art. Jeff Johns is writing sort of in that Watchmen, Alan Moore style. It's got places that's very cool, and it's got places where you're just sort of like you're trying too hard. But I'm not saying that the wait is worth it, but they pull in some very cool stuff that I wonder after I read the whole series again at once if it's still going to have that same wonder. Like some things I don't see coming, but now that I'm aware of it, is it going to hold up? Much like watching the first Avengers movie. The first Avengers movie to me was a spectacle that just blew me away. But by the time I got to watching it the second and third time, I'm like, I'm done. I only watched it 3 times because to me it didn't have that rewatchability for me, if you get what I'm saying. Still a great movie, but yeah. What was your opinion on Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross? I'll get to that in just a second here, right? But anyway, they pulled into Legion. I've got my Legion flight ring. There's a little mystery. There's been little breadcrumbs that they sprinkled going back all the way to when DC Rebirth started with this event that hopefully are going to pay off. We're going to get the return of the Justice Society. We're finally going to see some Legion. I'm scared for the Legion of Superheroes because Mike Bendis is on it. I'm like, I just don't think he's going to have the respect of that book and those characters that some of the fans have who have followed that book from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s and stuff, right? So I'm a little worried. Got a few more books here, but I was asked about my opinion of Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. Well, let me make it perfectly clear. Kingdom Come is Alex Ross's baby. Mark Waid was brought in to kind of help funnel and help with the structure of that storytelling. Um, and Wade said that from the get go, and Alex Ross said it from the get go. And there's an obvious reason why Alex Ross wouldn't agree to do the sequel with Wade or whatever was going on, and Wade went forward with The Kingdom. That totally, in my opinion, flopped. But they gave Alex Ross the opportunity to kind of do the prequel to it in the Justice Society books. You can look those up and stuff, right? But anyway, Kingdom Come is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I think it is Alex Ross's best work, and that is including Marvels by Kurt Busiek, who was the writer. Kurt Busiek wrote that. Don't get me wrong. And Earth X and his Justice. I mean, Alex Ross has a impressive body of work, which is not news. You know, I'm not. There's no big revelation there, but Kingdom Come is his masterpiece. I think. I do not sit there and like how Wade over the years sort of just went with the. I feel like he may have just be going with the flow because so many people just assumes it was his baby because he's Mark Wade and the writer and stuff. There is tons and tons of stuff through Wizard magazine. I've got tons here. Even in the some of the trades and stuff, it specifically says right there that it was Alex Ross's baby. So I think it's phenomenal, and I will always put out all day long that that was Alex Ross's. Mr. Gretzky is here. What's going on? Nice. All right, now we've got a few more DC books. Some of these are single issues, number ones, and things like that. But finishing off a series that just blew my mind that we had Mr. Miracle Mania there for a while. I'm a Jack Kirby fan, so I have known about Mr. Miracle since the late 70s. I got the first 5 issues, 6 issues. I felt like people were catching up with the stuff that I liked. It was kind of weird. You know what I mean? But they turned around and Tom King started out with this. He hooked me with what was going on. I felt like I was watching the Jacob's Ladder version. It's an old late 80s movie if you want to check it out. But I felt like I was seeing Mr. Miracle and DC doing their versions of Jacob's Ladder, which blew my mind. And the thing about Tom King is that he gets a lot of hate and a lot of love at the same time. And I've seen his fans turn on him, and I've seen a lot. I don't get it. You know what I mean? I mean, there's things that people praise, and there's things that he does. He pissed me off with the Batman thing, but it doesn't make me want to burn all the stuff. They were announcing that Catwoman and Batman were getting married, and then you get the freaking issue, and they have to tell you a week before that, no, they're not getting married. Totally pissed me off. I mean, I kind of get that stuff, right? But Tom King really, I don't know, man. I'm kind of wondering if the guy needs to get real therapy instead of his stuff is starting to really, it's to me, has been feeling like this is a man that we're watching work through his issues through these characters. And I don't think that's the place to do it. There's an outlet. I get him doing this stuff and everything like that, but it's just, you kind of lose interest in his stuff before you get to the end. Let's just put it that way. Now, again, now this one is where I will totally own that I'm the old man in my yard telling you kids to get out of my yard. You know what I mean? I totally own this. I totally get it, right? You know what I'm saying? But I went ahead and got the number 1 issue. But this is the Batman Who Laughs. Anybody who watched my last podcast, my last live show here, I apologize because I kept calling him the Batman Who Smiles. But I don't know why. I was tired. But anyway, but I went ahead and got the Batman Who Laughs, number 1. See, my problem is when I see the Batman Who Laughs, I was blown away, like everybody else, when I saw his debut, and he had the 3 Robins who were, on chains, and how they were saying crow, 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 and all this stuff. And I was one of the people that kind of suspected was that saying crowbar. Don't get me wrong, so I was right there. But it slowly started dawning on me. The bloom quickly came off that rose where I'm sort of looking at this. I'm like, something's wrong. First, I thought it was just a Hellraiser ripoff. First I was like, oh, it's Hellraiser. And I've got the epic line of some of the epic comics magazines that came out of Hellraiser and the movies. I was there for all that stuff. And then it dawned, then it finally just, I think I was in denial. And then finally I was like, it's Judge Death from Judge Dredd. I was like, oh no. So I will read the first issue. I will check it out. Maybe I'll put this up for eBay. I don't know. But he's got a huge fan following. But when I look at him, I see Judge Death. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm not a fan of the way the Batman Who Laughs look. How do you see those spikes on your eyes and stuff? 4-way flashes of comics. 4-way flashers of comics. You go check out his channel, man. Yeah, his look and everything like that. Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I totally get it. But there's sometimes it's comic books, and we put the aesthetic over the logic. You know, always have. They probably always will, and that's the magic of comics and stuff. But yeah, I totally get when you see things that you're just like, that makes no sense, and it just takes you out of the whole story. I mean, totally get what you're saying. Um, but like I said, Judge Death is a bit of a supernatural character, so he could get away with it. But we've got a Batman. Well, I want to read it before I give my opinion of the Batman who lasts completely and totally. I think I've said enough. But yeah, I totally get when an aesthetic just makes no sense for you. Now, this was a book I read before I got it. Yeah, Charleston 66 is right there, man. Yes, Judge Dredd or a Cenobite from Hellraiser. Yeah. And that's what I mean. If it's like I said, when it comes to Batman, I think I could do whole live shows just discussing one or two topics of Batman, and this would be one of them. So I need to really kind of read and get a little more knowledgeable about it, if you will. But I don't think my opinion is really going to change. Now, here's a book that I was greatly disappointed with. I'm going to go see the movie today. I think maybe. Um, I will definitely be seeing the movie, the Shazam movie, and I was not all that excited about it because I was like, it's big. It's Tom Hanks and big done with superheroes. And then all of a sudden, I watched the Captain Marvel movie trailer, and ever since I saw that first trailer, the seeds were planted for some reason for me to want to go see this movie. There's actually a Rob Con. It's called Rob Con comic book convention coming up in June or July in Kingsport, Tennessee, where they're going to be having the Boston dude. I can't remember his name, who did the live action TV show in the 70s on Saturday mornings. He's going to be there, right? For me to go, I'm thinking about going just to see him because that is one of the guys right there with the Lone Ranger and the George Reeves rerun. These were reruns, but the live action Shazam show, ISIS and Shazam show, huge part of my childhood. And then on Sundays and stuff, I would have the reruns of the Lone Ranger and reruns of George Reeves' Superman, Adventures of Superman 50 show, and Godzilla movies and Star Trek. So this is one of these guys where it'd be like me meeting Lou Ferrigno and Linda Carter and all these kids from my childhood. He's right there with them. But I read this number one, and this is the variant cover and stuff like that. I read the number one before I got this book, and I was like, are they freaking Power Rangers or what are they doing? Not happy with this. To me, this book is the Power Pack of the 90s. Just reading this first issue. If you like Power Pack, good for you. I'm really thinking about picking up some Power Pack instead of reading this, but I was not happy with this book. Don't know where it is. Don't know. I haven't really heard a lot of people enjoying it, talking about it. It's almost like it's still relevant. But we have Jeff Johns on it, stuff, right? So it's one of those books that I don't want to completely dump on it. But if you're a fan of it and you like it, good for you. But I don't know what this is. I've never liked the whole concept of him living with a foster family and he's sharing his powers with the whole foster family, and they all have different colors. And I mean, I know we're going back to the Lieutenant Marvels and things that they had and stuff, but it was Captain Marvel was front and center from the get go. I'm like, I'm really thinking that Jerry Ordway was the last person to nail this character. Charlton 66. It was a fun movie. Nice. Okay. Here we go. Let me back up here. There's been some talk I missed. The guy who owns my comic shop is good friends with the guy who created the Batman Who Laughs logo. Awesome. Judge Dredd is Cenobite. Yeah, we're at Charles 66. Mr. Gretzky, Shazam movie is awesome. I saw it earlier last month. Nice. Good to hear. I'm definitely going to go see it. I'm looking forward to it. I just said that. Four-way flashes of comics. Saw the Shazam movie last night. It is a kid's superhero movie. It's not deep, dark, or anything like any of the previous hero movies. That's not a bad thing. We can't keep making the same movies. That's one of the reasons I didn't like the Captain Marvel movie. There was nothing really special about it. Four-way flashers on comics. I loved it, by the way. Nice. And in Charleston 66, it was a fun movie. Looks like I need to get out there. Looks like I'm behind. Now, here's a book that I was really kind of getting into. Wait a minute. Yeah. I was really kind of getting into, and I've gotten to the point where I can get away from people's activities on social media and being complete asses and things like that. I can get certain, but it's turned into a book by book, creator by creator basis, and I couldn't get away from this. Right, I was already on shaky ground with the whole concept. I wanted to read it first, where they've started pulling in Alan Moore's uh, ABC, America's Best Comics Creations from the late '90s, early 2000s. Promethea popped up like in Justice League or something, and the Terrifics, which was the tongue-in-cheek version of the Fantastic Four, since Marvel wasn't giving us a Fantastic Four. They came in and they started pulling in Tom Strong. So I'm like, before hating on it, let's read and see what they do and stuff. And then I saw Lemire on Twitter a couple months ago, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not buying any more of his stuff. Hey, John, see what's going on. So I will read my Terrifics, and then I will get rid of my Terrifics. This hopefully is the last issue that I have, number 8. It'll give me enough idea what's going on with the Tom Strong idea. All right, John C is in the house. What's up, guys? Awesome. Now, here's a book that I got just to check out, right? I love Sam Keith art, but you end up finding some of these books and stuff in dollar bins, unfortunately, or cheaper and stuff, right? But I went ahead and I got this number 1, but it's IDW and DC bringing in Batman in the Max Arkham Dreams with Sam Keith art, right? So I love Sam Keith art. Don't get me wrong, but like I said, I can usually end up finding his stuff. Unfortunately, there's a lot of this indie stuff cheaper a little bit later, but I went ahead and got this. I think this is a variant cover. I think I had a couple variant covers. I might have ordered another one because it had a fantastic Joker cover. The last time I got something by Sam Keith, it was a Lobo story, 2-issue prestige format that Scott Ian of Anthrax came in and helped write. And it was really bad. I mean, like, it even took me out of the art a little bit. So I ended up selling it. More to it. I love my Anthrax and stuff, and they're comic book fans, Scott Ian especially. I mean, wow, that was bad. So but anyway, I got this. Maybe hopefully it's just fun, a little Batman. I know the big thing that a lot of people are loving / hating right now, or is all the Batman Teenage Mutant Turtles miniseries that they're popping out and stuff, right? I think it's just kind of fun. I don't know. So before I show you the Detective Comics, which cover did I get? I want to show you something I think Marvel is doing right, but I think it's going to come back to bite collectors in the ass. May not be a big thing, but it's definitely got me thinking. And I don't know if it's by design or what's going on, but the prices. But the first one, Marvel's doing 2 things with their history, their older books, their stock. Okay, the first thing they're doing is they're coming out with these. Can't remember what it's called, man, but they're coming out with older books where that are $3.99, and they're completely what's the word I'm looking for, man? It's like they gone, it's gone from DVD to Blu-ray, if you will. Okay, so I see it, but it's coming out with those Target books, those collectible books. They're coming out with a few of them every now and then. They're $3.99, but like this is Marvel Presents number 3. This was the beginning of the Guardians of the Galaxy run by Steve Gerber. In Marvel Presents, I'll have all of them, but number 3, it's a bit of a pricey book. So I got this, and I don't have to go collect it now. Now, will this deflate the value of the book now that they're out there? Okay. And the other thing they're doing, and I know people have seen them all over the place, are these True Believers for $1, but I get them 65 cents a piece and stuff. Now I don't have to try to go back and upgrade or replace them and stuff, right? I think these are great for the price, for the story that you're getting, for the older collectors and stuff. I've ordered the last issue of Star Wars, number 107 or whatever, it'll be coming and things like this. Some Conan books that I loved as a kid, and now I have a number 1. I'm like, I mean, they've always used to do reprints or put older comics in like 100-page giants or backup series and annuals and stuff. It's nothing new, but I find it just really interesting that with the way Marvel has been for the last 5 to 10 years, wanting that new Phantom audience and attacking fans, that whole merchandise, the whole marketing ploy and stuff. All of a sudden, they've been putting out these great big True Believers number 1 so cheap, from the older comics. Facsimile. Thank you, John C. That's it. The facsimile editions. Fantastic. Nice. And like I said, I still feel very knowledgeable about comics, but I can tell that's things that are happening in the last couple of years, and some of these events and some of these books, they're not having a big enough impact on me to really retain it. I'm not getting an emotional response, and memories triggered by emotions sometimes for me, or by smell. And so I'm like totally like, tell me about it. I'm sitting here willing to keep my mouth shut and let you sell it to me, or let me have little details and stuff, right? So here we are, guys. Detective Comics 1000 has come out. A couple months ago, Action Comics 1000 came out. Now, hits on Batman's what 80th anniversary. Um, I like how all that worked out and stuff, right? And these are milestones. Now, the biggest thing I always want to put out is that these are not the first books to hit issue 1000. But numerically and mainstream and main characters and things like that, yes, it is. And I feel like they should have been bigger events, right? The next milestones we have, and maybe I'll live long enough to see it and stuff, are when these characters turn 100. We're talking about public domain issues coming out. Will DC and all of them be able to hold on to these characters long enough to keep them as DC and stuff, or will they hit public domain? Because I don't know. I'm not up on all the copyright laws, but I read things where it's after the death of the creator, or it's 75 years plus a couple years. I'll try to look into it and stuff, right? But it's going to be real interesting to see these characters turn 100. I think that's the next milestone to look at. And as always, are comics going to be around? Are these companies still going to be in business and stuff? I have my doubts about Marvel being around after 2030, but who knows about DC? Who knows? They're starting to finally get right on the heels of Marvel with their movie franchises, finally starting to get things right with Wonder Woman, Aquaman, apparently Shazam. Um, and basically, I think it comes down where they're trying not to make a Marvel universe in their DC movie universe, if that makes sense. But anyway, I went ahead and I got the 80s one. The obvious choice for me would have been the Steve Rude cover. And then Mike already do one, but I went with the Frank Miller 80s one, right? Um, because there's many times that over the years Batman ebbed and flowed, and he's a character that has survived, and he's an archetype of comics and stuff. But the 80s, I would like to say that this was nostalgia. I would like to say that it's just worse the Dark Knight Returns and things like that. But to me, this is where Batman really became the mainstream icon, and we got our Batman that we have today. I'll always hold that to me the most pure version of Batman is the 90s cartoon with Kevin Conroy, of all things, right? But, I love my Dark Knight Returns. I love all that stuff. If you look on that top shelf, if you can see them. But these are the Dark Knight Return toys I've collected over the years. I need a Superman and a Wonder Woman, and I would love to find a Dark Knight Returns Joker. I know some came out in the early 2000s, but I know they're probably worth a lot of money. But, you know, I'm one of those people that it's not about being a fan of Frank Miller. It's not about hating Frank Miller. It's not about putting him up there. It's just that's a version of Batman that really had an influence on everything that came out from the Tim Burton movies to having two sequels, even though they were shaky, that has remained and stayed alive and has its fans. It really, to me, saved Batman. And in one of these podcasts, we talked about Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil coming on. It was a question about Neil Adams, and it ended up turning into a conversation about who was more influential in saving Batman, Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil, or Frank Miller with his Dark Knight Returns. I think that's one of those things you can go back and forth on forever. If it hadn't been for Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, would there have been a Batman or Frank Miller to come up with? Who knows? Who knows? Here we go. I'm hoping they do 1027 special, 1,000 Batman issues. Yeah, that'd be awesome. You're talking about 1,000 issues from his first appearance. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, John Jones. That'd be cool. Then they would have with double page center splash with DC doing a whole page to Bill Finger. I'm really glad that people, and I'm not talking about comic book people, I'm just talking about people in general, are getting to see the name Bill Finger in these movies when they talk about characters created by at the end of movies. That's something you just never thought you would see. And Detective 1070's cover makes no sense. I want to go back and look at it. It's not getting into me. I know there's a Bernie Wrightson cover where I'd seen the image before somewhere, and I was just sort of like they just kind of recycled that. I mean, I know they want to get Bernie in there, but still. But I think something did Detective Comics number 1000 end up having a total of like 82 or 83 covers. I know Jared Osborne on his channel did a whole video or live show or something where he showed off every cover of Detective 1,000, so who knows? All right, guys, but that's my haul. And like I said, I need to get ready. I need to see if I'm going out today. I need to go cook breakfast. I'm going to go try She Shazam. That starts in an hour and a half. So we'll see if I'm going or not. Yeah, that's the one. It's a 1991 piece of art. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I really haven't sat down and went in and looked at all the covers to Detective 1000. But like I said, tomorrow I'm going with some of my buddies. We're going to go to a comic book convention. I'm actually looking more way I work and come home and work and hang out and do all this stuff. I'm actually more, and you understand, I'm the only guy at work now. I'm in an office building where I'm the only male. So I'm actually looking forward to having some guy time tomorrow more than actually going to this comic convention and digging through boxes. See, we got here John Jones. Yeah, that's the one. It's a 1991 piece of art talking about the Bernie Wrightston detective cover. We got the Mr. Gretzky, who says he got the 50s and the 1940 covers. Nice. I'm probably going to back up and get the Steve Rude cover, and I'm probably going to end up getting a Mike Allred cover if he did one. Are you going to Winston-Salem? Yeah, I think that's where we're going. I think that's where it is. I'm actually just showing up in the morning, jumping into a car, and they're taking me wherever. There's a Roanoke Comic Con convention going on, the Twin City, which I'm assuming is Winston-Salem. I think that's what it's called. We're going. I'm not driving. I'm just getting picked up and letting them go and stuff like that. I mean, I really kind of let go of some responsibility and stuff. I'm usually the one driving, getting the gas, making sure everybody's on time, making sure we don't leave everybody behind. But this time I'm just sort of like, let me jump in the car. Let's go. We'll go wherever you want to go. So yeah, I'm going to be there. And usually, my phone usually works in a lot of these places. This one's been going off. I think we've made it through a whole. I was getting ready to say, I think we made it through a whole show without an alert. So at the very end, it gets us. Yes, Twin City. I wanted to go, but had other things come up. Yeah, yeah. Well, I really didn't decide I was going to go until Thursday, you know. So I'm still kind of waiting on the call or the message to let me know where and when to meet everybody. So maybe I'm not going. I don't know. Haven't heard from them. All right, guys. Any more questions? Anything going on? I'll probably be doing a live show about what I get at the comic book convention if I go. I don't know if that'll be tomorrow night or later in the week. So definitely hit the bell. Make sure you subscribe. And like I said, I always tweet these live shows out. I don't really do many videos anymore, but that may change. Very happy with this format here. So, all right, guys. Well, I need to go make breakfast and get ready to go and all that stuff, man. So later, guys. Have a good one. Be excellent to each other.